Hi YouTube. It's 5:49 in the morning and I'm hoping that if I can talk about it, I can take some of the power away from what's happening in my stomach right now. So there's a kind of a cramping happening in my abdomen that wants to push my stomach contents up or down. So I got up and I used the bathroom already, and now what's typical is that I would try to fix my stomach by eating a piece of fruit. Sometimes that helps. Yesterday, however, I ended up doubled over the toilet, throwing up all the little bits of apple that I tried to soothe myself with yesterday. So sometimes it's just too soon for my stomach to take anything in. I've even thrown up water. I met with my doctor yesterday, and I have a lot going on, so I told him about this, but I had an endoscopy last year. My symptoms were all the same, and they said they didn't find anything. So yeah, I went home without a plan to address it further or anything. I did find out that if I lose my insurance if I don't get a new school district job and I lose my insurance, I can still meet with this doctor, and I can even still get my prescriptions through their pharmacy. So that's really, really fortunate, because I don't want to have to start over somewhere else with a doctor who doesn't know me, because my situation's a little bit complicated. I haven't talked about it here before, but I actually have another chronic health condition, which is why I have this Flonase. I'm going to have surgery in a couple weeks to get rid of some of the tissue up here inside of my nose so that I can breathe better, because that's another complication that sometimes would lead to meltdowns is when I'm laying down to sleep, when I wake up from sleep, if I get teary-eyed, if I get tired, if I am depressed, I don't know, just if these different sensations happen that feel like they cause inflammation in my head, this all just blows up like a balloon, and there's no room for me to even really take my Flonase sometimes. I can't even inhale that because of how much excess tissue there is up in my sinuses. And I have a deviated septum. So I'm having surgery, a septoplasty, in about 12 days. And I am nervous about that because for 48 hours or whatever after that, I'm gonna have a bunch of blood stuck in my nose, and I will have to breathe through my mouth anyway. And the reason that leads to meltdowns is because when you're trying to sleep, you can't just wear a snorkel. I mean, I've thought about it, but I don't have a snorkel, and you would dry out your throat real bad. So your mouth closes, and if your nose is clogged up, well, you can't breathe, and it's kind of like sleep apnea. Um, where you wake yourself up because you're not breathing, but it's not because of, I don't know, weight on my chest. It's because of my sinuses. And I've had this problem also since I was a kid. I used to think that I was allergic to dust mites in my pillow. um, and when I was a teenager in high school, I looked up because I had chronic bloody nose issues, and so I got my nose cauterized. And the doctor at that time, I was a teenager on my family's insurance, and he said, you know, you have a deviated septum, so you could get a free nose job. And I thought about it, and I looked up on the internet about the surgery, and I read a story about another teenage guy who had a deviated septum and had the surgery. And then he had this symptom, which I later found out is called empty nose syndrome, where he could not, because of his big clear passages, he couldn't feel the air passing through, and he couldn't tell that he was breathing. And it drove him mad, and he killed himself. And because of that, I was absolutely terrified of the surgery, and I wouldn't do it. Fast forward to now, I'm 34. And it was about sometime in the past year that I decided that it's worth the risk. I mean, not being able to breathe all the time and having meltdowns because of that too. It's just crazy making. I have to fix my body so I can live a better life. So I got this appointment. I made my concerns known to the surgeon, and he told me it's called empty nose syndrome. He's only seen it in one of his patients, and he injected some silicone in there, and then they were fine. Yeah, it's interesting. This is kind of why I wanted to make a video, because my nose is all open and not clogged now, and my stomach is still in a weird state, but I'm not feeling tortured by it right now. So, yeah. I will say though that I feel like I'm being really challenged to learn how to rely on myself and keep a cool head, because I don't know about you, but I have always had this thing where the world is overwhelming and scary, and so if I don't have at least one really nice, I guess in the autism world they call it a favorite person, who I can trust, who understands me, who I can talk to when I'm upset. If I don't have that, I feel really scared and alone and vulnerable. And it's a real wake-up call, the way that I pushed my partner away by having such extreme meltdowns. And I realize now that I was leaning into having support, and I mean, I never used to. When I lived with people before, I'd scream into my pillow, but I would never just scream out. And I would like beat up my pillow or my bed and like throw my pillow, but I wasn't breaking dishes. And I didn't know I was autistic. I just knew that I would have these things happen. Like, life was really hard. I couldn't feed myself very well. I was always anxious. I didn't know how to socialize well. Going to work took about all the energy that I had, and then I didn't have anything left over to take care of myself well at home. So I would have meltdowns and just kind of keep it to myself and be like, what the hell was that? I'm such a freak. Oh my God. And then I learned that I had autism. It's actually kind of common now that I think about it. You do hear that a lot, that once people get diagnosed, their symptoms kind of get worse as they start to unmask. And they experience something called skill regression. Because your body, it has been doing all of this extra stuff that it couldn't really do out of survival, and it's kind of like once it identified the problem, it's like it's a really strange phenomena. I'm just thinking about having like an injured knee or something and ignoring it until you know how bad it is, and then you feel the pain. I mean, I don't really know. I haven't had that happen, but my grandpa climbed Mount Shasta and hurt himself and didn't know until he got home, and he took off his hiking boot and his ankle like whoosh, shot out like a grapefruit because it was all swollen. Yeah, it's like I didn't know why life was so hard for me. I was making all these accommodations for myself, taking all these shortcuts, I guess, that made other people judge me as not being an adult enough. I would just come home and go to bed. But back in those days, I lived with people who were not my safe people. I thought they were, and then I moved in with them, and then they were. I was getting a lot of flack all the time about just crazy stuff. Like, the first scary wake-up call was, I came from a different living environment where everybody washed their own dishes. That they dirtied something and they washed it. And then I was doing that, and then one day I was confronted with, how come you never wash the dishes in the sink? Because I just washed the ones that I made. You're so selfish. You've got to wash the dishes in the sink. If somebody puts dishes in the sink, you just wash them. I'm like, what? You're yelling at? I couldn't argue. I found out really quickly if I stood up for myself, they would yell at me even more and swear at me and get really angry. So I didn't do that. Fortunately, their partner would do that. They cooked a lot. They made these really, they were good cooks, and so they'd make these complicated meals almost every night and have a big pile of dishes in the morning. And when my friend was at work, his partner would do those dishes. And none of them were mine. Well, I don't think so. I kept my dishes to myself, and I did not do everybody else's dishes, even though I got yelled at about it. Like, what? So yeah, I was not in a safe environment. That made it a lot harder, because then I was hiding, and I wouldn't even leave to feed myself until they were, gone, like done cooking and watching TV and almost asleep. So, and then I was throwing up in the morning because of this problem that that I have. I think I might have said this in another video, but it's crazy that I was away at grad school. I actually went to grad school for 2 years. It was just like, it would be a 3-day weekend a month where you'd be there for 9 hours a day. And I got this text at the end of like my second or third day saying, you need to stop throwing up in the morning. You are triggering this roommate. They used to have bulimia, and you have bulimia, and you need to stop binging and purging because you're making them feel unsafe, and if you can't do that, then you can't stay here. And I didn't really understand what was going on with me, why I threw up every morning. So I thought, oh my God, oh no, I can't believe I've done this. Oh crap. It basically ruined my day. And then I told my family that I was bulimic, and they were, surprised, but like supportive. Um, and it's weird because there was a part of me that didn't think I was bulimic, but the power of what they said to me, I just like I believed it, and I told people I was bulimic until I realized I'm not binging and purging. I wake up sick to my stomach. I just wake up sick. So it gets even crazier. I had to continue throwing up because it wasn't binging and purging. So I had to use the faraway bathroom, which I should have been doing in the first place because nobody was living in that bedroom anymore. But I was told not to use it because that was this roommate's craft room where they would sew clothes and then use the bathtub to dye the clothes, and they had a big wooden spoon in there. And so because it was their clothing studio, I wasn't allowed to use the bathroom. But once they told me I was bulimic, I ignored it and started throwing up in their bathroom because there was never anyone in there in the mornings. And then eventually I met the person I live with now, my partner, who might be my ex-partner. And when she heard about stuff I was dealing with, she invited me to move in with her and her roommates. And then she and I moved in together to live just with each other. And after 4 years of me having these destructive meltdowns and talking about how I want to kill myself when I have meltdowns, she doesn't want to stay here, and she doesn't want to be with me anymore. So I'm having to try to keep my cool while my future is a big question mark because I don't have work. I don't have any money. I don't have family nearby or friends that I could live with, that I could stay with. So I'm just really, really, really hoping that somehow in the next few months I'll find a new source of income, and maybe I'll even revert back to my old private meltdown fashion and be able to stay with my partner if she can see that I really don't break stuff and talk about suicide anymore. That's my biggest hope, but I'm kind of scared that that's not going to work because of how motivated my partner is to get out of this situation. She's putting her name on low-income housing and all this, and I understand she just wants to be prepared. But yeah, it's really hard. I feel like, God is challenging me or whatever, and I know it sounds crazy, and it even maybe sounds egocentric, but it's kind of the most human thing to do in the world, is to wonder why your life is the way it is. And I don't know about most people, but it seems like a lot of people eventually start to think or wonder that there's some kind of higher power that has some influence in all this somehow. And so I've been trying to figure out how to talk to my spirit guides or hear my higher self, blah blah blah. But I have such a loud inner monologue that is so creative that I can't tell. it's often just me talking to myself. Or maybe it always is. Like my bio mother passed away in 2015. And it just occurred to me within the last week that if she's on the other side, she could be, I could communicate with her, she could be a spirit guide. And sometimes I imagine that I can feel her presence, but it's just me imagining it. I think I've never really had an experience that was so stark that I couldn't deny it. And the reason I'm looking for those experiences is because, seeing as how my life is as complicated as it is, I would really like some higher perspective. And I don't really know what to do other than to try to have faith that things will be okay. I apply for jobs almost every single day. Some days I apply for many jobs. And I've got my, DVR, Department of Vocational Rehab, application approved. I just have to wait for them to have funding. I don't have disability. I have to wait until I can attest my case, and I'll probably be denied and have to do it again, so that'll take at least a year. So, ideally I would want some inner voice, some spirit, some higher voice to give me little signs of like excitement, or just like, oh, but look at that, or something, so I could know what direction to go in to improve my life, to get myself out of this tough situation. And so what my brain does is it sees numbers. Like right now it's 6:11 and I've been recording for 22 minutes. So those are angel numbers, 11 and 22. And lately I've been seeing 44 a lot. Usually I see 23. But lately when I pick up my phone or just go glance at it or whatever, catch the time in a video, it's 44. And your brain has something called the reticular activating system, which, because of your very good inner clock, your biological clock, I just saw 2244. Your brain can be cued into those things you've designated as meaningful and give you a subtle cue to go look for it. And it's a kind of a cognitive bias once you assign value to something and you notice it. Like now it's 23 minutes and 23 comes after 22, but a part of me like wants to think that the angels are letting me know that something good is happening, or something nice is about to happen, or whatever. It's my brain's desperate way of finding some meaning, but a lot of people say that these angel numbers are confirmation from your spirit guides, from source, from spirit, whatever, that you're on the right track. And numerology is a really old thing, and if you look it up online, you'll find all these things that, since ancient times, these different numbers have developed, these characters have had meaning attributed to them. And I don't know where I first heard about it, if I heard about numerology or if I just spontaneously became a numerologist, but at a certain point in my late 20s, I went from being a secular humanist to being spiritual. It's kind of like the trauma of my life piled on so much that my brain cracked, and I just desperately started looking for meaning and signs that things were good somehow. And so I started obsessively noticing all the license plates, and I'd see all these patterns in them and be like, oh, that one right there has a 23. Oh, and the one parked right next to it also has a 23. Oh, and that one on the other side of the road also has a 23. What's going on? Oh my god, this car drove by and it has a 23. Stuff like that. Or I'd see my birthday numbers. I'm 34, so it's been a good maybe 8 years that that's been happening now. Yep, so it worked. It's 6:14 and I don't feel like I'm going to throw up. So thanks for listening to me yammer on. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.